Take a look at some top stories as of this hour, and all consolidators for both air and sea cargo are now required to register with the KEBS to have their goods inspected under a new procedure created by the Kenya Bureau of Standards and the Kenya Revenue Authority. Well, the new procedure targets cargo containing a wide range of products or merchandise. The cargo, generally in small quantities or parcels, belongs to several consignees. According to KEBS, this importers pool or assemble together parcels to form one consignment, which may be declared as belonging to one importer at the import of destination or deconsolidated back into the original individual consignments for delivery to the respective cargo owners upon arrival at the destination port. According to the new procedure, all consolidated cargo must be inspected in the country of supply by the KEBS appointed inspection agents and issued with a certificate of inspection before shipment to Kenya. With a goal to enhance quality of goods imported into the country, KEBS has actually contracted 5 agencies to inspect on its behalf goods destined to Kenya from across the globe under the Pre-Export Verification of Conformity program. The Kenya Revenue Authority has released a new digital form that makes it easier to track down individuals trying to evade taxes by filing nil income tax returns. The new form has been effected by means of reconfiguring the Kenya Revenue online tax filing platform, iTax, which requires filers of nil income tax returns to affirm of not having any other source of income. This information will help KRA better profile taxpayers to curb culprits who evade filing their tax returns, as the Kenyan law expects every individual with a PIN to file a return annually.
No one and no one's license has been revoked. The truth is that they are still operating. There could be people who fear that this process may expose things that may be difficult to explain.
Well, indeed, interesting times for taxpayers. You need to be extra careful when it comes to filing your returns. Well, with the Easter festivities just over, hoteliers and transport business reported booming business. Our reporter Julia Wino was out on the streets to get views from ordinary Kenyans on how the short holidays were spent. Over to you, Julie.
Currently, we are at Mwindi Bingo Street, where we are trying to see if business is back as usual. I mean, are the shops open or some shops are still closed? As the situation was yesterday, we were able to see that some businesses were not actually happening. More shops were closed and people just seem to be having a good time. But today, the situation is turning out to be different. More shops are actually opened and it seems like business is back to normal. But we're trying to get a feel of how the situation is after Easter. Are the markets risen? Are people getting the profit they expected? Or the business is still done and guys are still not out in the market to purchase what they usually purchase on a normal time basis? And right here we have one of the drivers who took part in the tourism sector and who can actually tell us whether the tourists were there or they were not there, and how was the business during that period, and how does he feel it is right now even after the Easter season. Habari yako mzee? Tuambie, unaonaje Easter ilikuwa imebadilisha biashara ama iliangusha biashara, na pia saa hizi biashara yako unaona ikiendeleaje?
Easter haikubadilisha biashara yote. Juu tourist wale wa locals walikuwa wengi kidogo, lakini walikuwa like wanafanya siku moja, mbili, sio siku nyingi. Lakini wale foreigners walikuwa hakuna.
Foreigners walikuwa wako. Na sasa hivi pia unaona kama kuna hopes za kupick up kibiashara ama haijulikani?
No, tuna expect ikiwa mzuri kawaida high season kuanzia June. Yeah.
Kuanzia?
June, July, August huko.
June, July, August. Sawa sawa, asante sana. So you can actually get the feel from his side as the business was not doing that well even during the Easter period. I mean, the tourists that were only around were the local tourists. And this time round, surprisingly, we didn't have the international tourists. So we wonder who visited the fancy places we have, our tourism places. So that's all we have for you for now. Back to you in studio, Abby.
Oh, thanks, Julie, for that update. Well, indeed, the Easter did come with its mixed share of ups and downs. Let's take it now to West Pokot, where West Pokot Governor Professor John Nyangapo is looking to boost agricultural production by empowering youth in the county through training and resource distribution. Here's more on that.
For close to 1 year now, and almost half, we have had the presence of bear in West Pokot County, and they came and dealt issues in two sectors in West Pokot, health and agriculture. And in agriculture, we are privileged to be given, in agriculture, particularly livestock, we are privileged to be given breeds, new breeds that withstand the climate of West Pokot, and animals that can easily make our local breed better. We also have fish ponds introduced in West Pokot, courtesy of Bayer cooperation with us. And some youth groups you might have seen today, the way they have really benefited. And lastly, in health, we have had a lot of support from Bayer in our health facilities, and particularly related to areas of maternal. We also have nutrition and so on.
Well, the Kenya International Freight and Warehousing Association is set for a vibrant revival following an all-inclusive elections which were held in Nairobi last week. Well, the association has been facing leadership wrangles for the past 2 years with two different factions, one led by William Ojonyo and another by Auni Baiji. However, the two sides agreed to a joint election which saw Ojonyo elected new chairman with a landslide at the Nairobi hotel here in the country. Well, we now want to speak to the newly elected chairman, and that is William Ojonyo, joining us by way of phone. Good afternoon, Ojonyo, and what will be in your entry as you take over office?
Thank you very much, Abby, and thank you for considering me for this interview. Well, I think what is important to me is now all members have agreed and they have an all-inclusive board, which I'm chairing. And moving forward, we are looking at how do we do things differently? How do we facilitate trade? How do we become part of this conversation that will be part of this chain that ensures collection of taxes and facilitation of trade as a whole?
Sorry, I apologize for the line. We'll be getting back to him in a short while as we sort out that matter. But really, the conversation is around the elections, and we did see a very heated kind of election that did see some factions emerging out of this particular election. And I don't know if you can hear me once again. William, are you on the line?
Yes, I can hear you, Abby.
Well, apologies for that. But taking the conversation forward now, you're coming out of an election that was very intense, and there are splinter groups that were trying to push for a different agenda. What will be your message to those that feel that you needed to exit from the leadership?
I think one, I would like to bring everybody on board. I want to be chair for all KIFWA members, irrespective of whether you voted for me or otherwise. But most importantly is that we are one family in the freight forwarding industry. Clearly, my agenda would be to enhance business and by extension facilitate trade. I would like to embrace what I call consultative approach to ensuring business is enhanced in this country. We know, and I must emphasize, that in fact, KIFWA and customs agents, for that matter, contribute immensely by a huge percentage the GDP of this country, because trade basically dictates economy. We want to be part of that discussion. We want to be part of the vibrant moving forward discussion to ensure a clear way of facilitating trade.
And lastly, Ojonyo, well, one of the other areas that we've seen freight forwarders bring up issues is in relation to the compulsory use of the standard gauge railway to transport cargo from Mombasa to Nairobi. And at the same time, the various people in the business are saying that the offtake capacity at Nairobi is not sufficient. Many of the traders are having their containers locked up at the port. They cannot access them because of the speed at which the cargo can be processed. How true is this in the first place? And secondly, how do we approach this in order to make businessmen avoid paying hefty charges when it comes to storage costs?
Thank you again, Abby. I think the SGR conversation has been there now for the last more than 2 months. What everybody would be asking themselves is, after the directives, how is it like in terms of the capacity of ICD? It is true that now we have numbers getting into ICD in terms of imports and containers into the inland container depot at Nairobi. But what we are not getting clear is whether or not they are leaving the ICD as fast as they are coming in. And that is what is informing the questions about the offtake from ICD to the customers. Not so much is there to take home about the success of the same, that although cargo is being forced onto the wagons, the offtake is not as fast because of what I keep saying and calling inefficiency of different sectors in the supply chain. Unless we agree and address these issues uniformly and without any fear of contradiction of whether or not we are efficient or inefficient for that matter, the solution to having the offtake make sense in trade is to ensure all the supply chain interveners come together and agree on what must be done. For instance, Abby, it is impossible for you to talk about a supply chain without talking about the empty containers being returned and on time to the ship, to the carriers. Today, your route into ICDN, you will meet containers that are strewn all over because the empty containers cannot be accepted back into the ICD. So we have so much to talk about, and clearly we are not doing business as of now. We are doing what I call taking directives. Abby.
Many thanks, William Ojonyo, for the insights, and indeed congratulations on your re-election into office. Well, let's move the conversation forward in another dimension, and in an effort to show that the Kenyan business environment is resilient and impervious to turbulence, it appears the country continues to step up its charm to foreign investors. This has seen the government lay out a raft of incentives in order to attract strategic investors. We dissect this new shift.
Kenyans have continued to show their need to do business beyond the headwinds of a difficult period. This is evident among the SMEs as well as the ordinary vegetable vendor on the streets. To tap into these micro sectors, the government is looking to capitalize by offering several incentives. Among the raft of incentives being put on the table by the Kenya Investment Authority, KenInvest, are fiscal incentives. This includes a 10-year corporate income tax holiday and a 25% tax rate for a further 10 years thereafter. This is geared towards giving enough time for new companies to settle and possibly make a faster return on investment. There is also a 10-year tax holiday on dividends and remittances to non-residents. KenInvest also goes on to include perpetual exemptions from VAT and customs imports duty on inputs and raw materials. KenInvest believes this will make Kenya a more competitive destination.
What can be bigger than a whole corridor? You know, a corridor with 3 airports, with a port, with a rail line, oil pipeline, 3 resort cities. That's an example, one of our mega projects. If you like smaller projects, we have very vibrant micro and small enterprise subsector.
The wooing doesn't stop there. The government is looking to pull investors into other sectors that have received a lull in investment from the local industry with a view to diversify Kenya's economy.
We look forward, we can tap into wind, solar energy, wave, tidal, circles, among others. We'd like you to come and help us in doing exploration on the seabed, because we know that there are many minerals found within the seabed which can be used in our country and help in manufacturing.
In the backdrop of unpredictable economic growth and expensive goods and services, investors are clearly setting their sights on under-tapped sectors that have shown signs of viability.
Well, the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology has trained over 30 county officials from over 10 counties in a program funded by USAID, which is aimed at improving the health standards in the counties. According to the Dean of School of Public Health from JKUAT, Dr. William Muturi, the program will expose the officers from the county to new skills and give them a chance to grow in terms of technology. By the end of the training, the officers will have learned about collecting information in the health sector to be used by policy makers.
I've come here to learn on how to present my data using maps. We can use the same information so that we can plan well, see how many personnel we can employ or deploy, then also what we are supposed to put in place, safeguard the confidentiality and the security of our patients' records.
This group of 19 students or participants, for that matter, are drawn from these 12 counties, and at the end of the training, once they go back, they are supposed to lead their teams back there, because that is what you would call the county health team. They're supposed to lead this county health team to utilize data spatially and temporally for decision making. Data is collected from various levels, from the level of the community health unit, from the levels of level 2 of care, level 3, level 4, up to the national level. But unfortunately, this data is never utilized for decision making, and especially with regard to the development of the annual work plans, budget lines, and even on routine activities like programmatic areas.
We are actually looking at how best we can collect information, which in turn can be translated into an information product. Remember, we are collecting very sensitive information, which is so much associated with our clients, in this case, our patients. So for that matter, we are saying that the information we collect is confidential, and that's why we are saying that the data collected is purely done by those people who are authorized.
As Kenya welcomed Air France back into the country, the roll around the airspace where Kenya is set to offer direct flights from Paris to Nairobi, we assess the impact this will have between the two countries, from trade to boosting regional connectivity. The touchdown of the inaugural flight at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport from Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris marked a new chapter in the aviation industry. Observers have described the resumption of direct flights as a game changer for travelers from East Africa.
Our Nairobi is a very important capital in Eastern Africa. I think it's also the hub of Eastern Africa. So we look forward to developing the traffic between Eastern Africa, Nairobi and Paris. At the same time, Nairobi is the hub of our partner Kenya Airways, and we are really joining forces with Kenya Airways by reinforcing the link between Paris and Nairobi.
And today I'm very proud to be on the first flight to Nairobi. It is a proof of the upmarket of Air France because it will be in one of our new aircraft.
The airline is banking on the pre-existing code-share agreements it has with Kenya Airways and KLM to grow numbers.
We are starting with 3 weekly frequencies to Nairobi with a 276-seater. We're expecting high load factors because we are really betting on a very good cooperation and connectivity between Air France and Kenya Airways.
Air France is bullish over the new route, noting that prospects in the aviation sector are promising.
So why now? Because first, the business is thriving between Kenya and France. If we look at figures, a few years ago there were only 35 French firms present in Kenya. Now there are almost 80 to 90 present. So I understand also that France is a fourth investor of foreign investment in Kenya. Yeah. So there is strong economic ties.
In the next 5 years, with the infrastructure improvement that we're going to do on those new terminals and the possibility of that second runway, will entirely transform this region and the way it is. We therefore expect traffic. Globally, we're looking at an increase of 4% increase in traffic until 2030. But I believe that we can increase that growth rate with all new facilities in this airport, making it a hub.
The route will be serviced by a new Dreamliner, Boeing 787-9, which will be flying 3 times a week. With plans to increase the frequency based on demand projections, Air France is further expectant that the new aircraft, combined with the French high service proposition, will be a good sell for the high-end travelers who fly on business class.
All our Eastern African customers will benefit from the best-in-class product. It's the newest airplane we've got in our fleet.
We have redesigned the cabin and the seat for more legroom, more width on the seat pad, on the seat back, so the comfort is very good. And you can expect Air France experience, so French food, our best French chef, haute cuisine française in business class.
The launch of direct flights will predominantly be targeting business and leisure travelers along the route. Air France has its sights also set on other countries that rely on JKIA for connection flights.
So the price will a bit depend about the days and the operations, but it's going to be very competitive.
From a trade perspective, French interests in Kenya have solidified, especially in the manufacturing and automotive business.
Well, I think our strategy is going to be an upward positioning of our brand. We have an excellent product on board. We want to differentiate from the other brands by our French touch, by the comfort of our flights, by the smooth connectivity in Charles de Gaulle. So yes, indeed, we are playing the card of quality to differentiate from competition.
The resumption of the direct flights after 18 years will offer exporters an opportunity to tap into the French market as well as other European countries. With a lot of optimism coming in the aviation sector, the direct flights from Paris to Nairobi heralds a new dawn for Air France as it looks to expand its footprint in Africa, targeting the business travelers as well as those coming for tourism and for holidays. Reporting from Charles de Gaulle Airport here in Paris, I'm Abi Agina for KTN News. Well, indeed, good tidings for the aviation sector. Well, the scramble for subscribers in the local telco space has entered fever pitch after mobile service provider Telkom Kenya unveiled its new postpaid tariff. The tariff marks to gain on Kenyans' appetite for data, which according to the Communications Authority of Kenya, third quarter statistics, it anticipated that the demand for and use of mobile broadband services will increase significantly with the rollout of 4G mobile services across the country. While Telkom Kenya in a statement says that the new tariff dubbed Telkom Move would target heavy data users and the cosmopolitan individuals. In the new postpaid bundle proposition, subscribers will get 25 gigabytes of data, where the bundle comes at 2,499 shillings a month with unlimited on-net calls, 800 off-net minutes and 800 SMS. Question, and the Twitter poll question for today was really on how can the government sort of come up with incentives that will help people to save more through SACCOs. Well, we're seeing some interesting results. 43% are saying tax incentives, 16% are saying compulsory saving, 41% saying create